Welcome to part 3 of a multi-part guide to CCP Games' long-lived MMO and flagship title, EVE Online. Today, I'm going to be covering possibly one of the most important and certainly one of the least understood areas of the game, setting up your overview. If you did miss any of the previous episodes in this series, you can click on the annotations on screen now to be taken to an earlier video. So, what is it that's so vital about your overview? Well, simply put, your overview is part of your ship's built-in sensors. Essentially, it's the front windscreen on your car if we were to describe it metaphorically. So, with that being said, I guess let's grab the squeegee and start cleaning off a few of those bugs. But before I do get started with showing off the ins and outs of customizing your overview, I will give you a quicker option here, as I understand that not everyone is going to want to get into the nitty-gritty, down and dirty overview setup options. So if that's you, and you just want a quick slap and go setup, you can grab my overview that I'm going to be setting up here over at the mailing list New Bro Help. Just click on the link for Captain Ace Rico's overview and that's it, you're done. Although you may need to resize some of the columns in your overview tabs. However, I do strongly encourage you to create your own overview setup, as what I've got might not be exactly what you're after, and you're also just not going to know for yourself exactly what is displayed in each tab and what has been omitted. So if you're still with me, let's get customizing. Now, I would recommend that you simply watch this video through and don't worry about pausing to make changes to your own setup as you go along with me. Instead, once you're done with the video, jump over to the New Bro Help mailing list and grab the overview setup there, which you will then know and understand and can make adjustments to should you so desire. If you've been watching my earlier videos and already have my overview set up, head back to the mailing list and grab the latest version that was sent with the most recent mail, as the overview was updated at the time of making this video. Now, without further ado, let's dive into our basic settings. Alright, so here we are outside of the wonderful chaos that is Jita, and you can see in our general overview here, things are a little bit messy to say the least. So if we want to even just scroll down and find the stargates and get about our journey, that's very, very difficult for us to even do that. So we're going to go about a few of the options that we have available to us here to start cleaning this up. First off, we can right click on any item we see in the overview here and go and remove that item type from the overview. So let's go ahead and get rid of these mobile depots, and you can see that cleans things up quite a bit already. We can also do the same for, say, mobile tractor units. And then the same goes for any icons that you see in space. So we can say right click on a mobile depot here and add all the mobile depots back into our overview. So this can be a good way for you to start basically organically shaping your overview sort of as you go, and working out exactly what you want in there and what you don't. You can be flying around and maybe you'll see a lot of mobile depots in your overview and you'll decide, you know what, I don't really want to see people advertising their crap every time I come into a system, so you could maybe remove those. And conversely, you can also add items back into your overview that you might see. Say you see these sentry guns and you're like, you know what, I actually want to show these in my overview. So then you could right click on those and add those back in. But we will take those out for now. We are going to open up our overview settings here. So to do this, we're going to click on the hamburger menu in the top left corner of the overview window and open overview settings. You can see we have 3 tabs active at the moment. General, Mining and Warp 2. We do have the option to put 2 more in, which we will do very shortly. In the overview presets here, you can see the presets that we have active for each of these tabs. So the presets are the preset set of icons that we have shown to display in that tab. So you can see for the moment we have this general one here, which is not saved, which is the general one we've just been tweaking, and it's basically just the standard general without the mobile depots or the tractor units. But we will switch to this one here, which I have saved. That's just a version I saved earlier, which is the same thing, general without mobile depot or tractor units. Then in this last section here, you can see we have bracket presets. Now, brackets are these little icons which you see in space. So at the moment you can see we're on show all brackets for all tabs. But for our general one here, let's take this down and select the general which I saved. And you can see when I select that, the mobile depots disappear from our overview. So this is what I like to do. I like to have the icons that I have displayed in that particular tab showing in space and anything else not actually showing. But I would say probably when you're starting out and still sort of shaping things the way you want it to display, it might be an idea to be on show all brackets, just so that you can see all of the icons in space and actually see the difference between what is displaying in your overview and what is actually in space around you. That way you can get a bit of an idea of what you actually want to display and what you don't. But let's get in to creating our tabs here. So the first tab we are going to make is going to be called our primary tab, and this is going to be the tab that I'm going to use pretty much most of the time I'm flying around, docking in stations, traveling from gate to gate, all that sort of thing. I will then create a PvP tab. This will be my standard PvP tab. I will then create a PvP with drones tab. Now, you do want to have a PvP tab as well as a PvP with drones tab, because occasionally you're going to be involved in fights where there'll be just, hundreds of drones on field. Maybe there's abandoned drones as well, and you just don't want to be able to see those because it's too hard to lock targets and all that sort of thing. But conversely, you're occasionally going to want to kill another player's drones, so you do want to be able to differentiate between the two there. The fourth tab we will put in here is going to be called looting. This is where I'm going to chuck all of my mobile depots, tractor units, secure cargo containers, that sort of thing, so it doesn't have to show in my primary tab. And then the fifth and final tab we're going to put in here will be an all tab, and this is just obviously going to show all the things, and I'll use this for when I'm cloaked and moving about, not wanting to collide into things, and I kind of also use it for mining a little bit as well, because unfortunately I'm only limited to 5 tabs here, so I can't have a separate tab for mining, so I just use my all tab for that. But we will go in now to a few more of the, advanced settings that we can use to change the way things are going to display in all of our overview tabs. Okay, so you can see we have our 5 new tabs created here. We're going to go and create the presets for each of those in just a minute here. But first off, like I said, we're going to change the way that things display in all of our tabs here. So to do that, we're going to go to this appearance column here, and we're on the color tags at the moment. You can see immediately we've got a few options here. So apply to ships and drones only, we are going to leave this checked. And then we have 2 options here to use smaller color tags or smaller fonts if we would so desire. But I'm going to leave those unchecked. Now what we're going to do in our color tag options here is we're going to tweak this a little bit to have pilots who have a standing towards us that we want to know about, such as if they are at war with us, we're going to make those pilots stand out a little bit more. So first off, we're going to change at war pilots to red. So you can see we've already got corporation and alliance set red, but we will set at war with our militia to red as well. Then we'll go and right click on both of these and toggle them to blink. Now what this is going to do is, in our local chat list here, pilots who are at war with us will show up with this blinking red icon on them. And even with over 2,000 people in Jita local here, it's actually quite easy to see if we have a war target, just by grabbing this little scroll bar, and we're scrolling up, and you can see the little green dots go flying by here. Now, if there was a red flashy in local, it would actually be surprisingly easy to see that they are in here with us, even though there's over 2,000 people actually in local with us. So that's a good way of actually identifying if there is a war target in local with you. Next up, you can see that we've got limited engagement timer is flashing, as well as criminal and suspect. We're also going to set security status below -5 as blinking. Now what all of these standings mean is basically any of these guys, we are free to engage without having to worry about Concord coming and shooting us. So if a pilot has a sec status below -5, we can shoot them. If they're a suspect or a criminal, we can shoot them. And limited engagement we can shoot as well, which is basically like if you duel someone, which if someone goes and tries to duel you, just know that that's not like some weird mechanic like in other MMOs where, you know, you enter a little duel arena and you shoot at each other and one of you falls down and then you go on your merry way. It's actually it actually will kill you. So that was something that I found out quite early on. Someone decided to try and duel me, and I was like, yeah, why not? And then ended up losing a ship with a bit of loot in it, I believe. So don't go and do that. But let's go into the backgrounds section here, and we're also going to change this so that pilots who have standings that we want to know about are going to be obvious to us again. So once again, for at war, we're going to set these to red. So militia, we will go and set that to the red color, and you can see both of these are already blinking. Then we're going to go down to limited engagement here. We're going to set that to orange, and criminal here we're going to set to yellow. Suspect is already yellow. -5 we're going to set to yellow as well, and then toggle all of these to blink. Limited engagement blink. There we go. So what these blinking ones are known as commonly is flashies, and as I said, flashies can be engaged by you in high sec without having to worry about consequences. So that's something that you're going to want to know about, because, you know, there might be a potential there for you to get some content, but also at the same time, do be aware that people do use this flashy status to try and bait you. So if you're going to engage a flashy, make sure that you can win the fight, or you have a good chance of winning the fight if you decide to take it. But let's go down, and what we're going to do is hit all of these little check boxes in the side here, and this, you're going to see, is going to make it a lot more obvious when there is a pilot on grid with us, so in our local space. There we go. So immediately you can see in our overview here, it's a lot more obvious what is actually another player and what is a station, or, you know, a Stargate, a Celestial, some other entity in space other than a player ship. So obviously I want to know if another player has landed on grid with me, because, and there you can see there's a flashy there. It's immediately showing up quite obviously to us. This is probably it's a suspect, and probably baiting. I don't even, let's see if we can find out where this guy is. Oh, he's not within look range, so I don't know. Oh, that was him there. He walked off to that station. Okay, whatever. Yeah, but we do want to know if someone is landing on grid with us, obviously, because that is definitely relevant information to us. Next up here, though, we're going to move on to this columns section here, and we're going to change a few things in here. Now, also while I'm doing this, I'm just going to drag this overview section out a little bit here. And this is like I was talking about in the previous video, you know, having your overview as large as possible is, you know, potentially better, because then, like I said, you can display more of these columns here. And some of these columns are actually, you know, quite useful to us. So the more of them that we can display, the better. But you know, it's a play-off between aesthetics and displaying information. And we are fighting the good fight against spreadsheets in space. So you know, we do want to keep things looking a little bit neater. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and check the tag box here. I'm also going to check corporation and alliance, and also velocity. Now, these are the 4 extra columns that I have decided are useful enough for me to have included in my overview, but you could definitely make a very strong argument for having transversal velocity in the columns as well. This is something I'm going to talk about a little bit more in the next video when I get into piloting your ship, but yeah, transversal velocity is one that I've really been thinking about trying to make room for on my overview, but you know, at the moment I've got it, I think I've actually got it checked, but it's like sitting out of view. So let's even do that. Let's check that, and we will probably leave it out of view there. But what we're going to do here is we can actually grab these. So we can grab this tag here, and we can move this to wherever we want on our overview. So I'm going to go and chuck it below my icons list here. So you can see that's moved this column, the tag column, next to the icons. And then I'm going to resize this just by grabbing here, and I'm going to resize it right down till just where it says tag. So right there. All this is going to display is a single digit, so it just needs to be really small like this. And what it's going to display is tags that are set by an FC or a wing commander or a squad commander or something in a fleet that I might be in. And tags are basically used to show the order in which you might shoot things, or you know, sometimes in mining fleets they're also used to just identify a particular asteroid, etc, etc. So that's definitely going to be useful to us there. We're also just going to bring up velocity here. We're going to bring this up to below type here, and then I'm going to switch corporation and alliance around just like that. Yep, faction can go below there, not that it matters because it's not checked. And I guess we'll bring transversal velocity up below here, even though this is not going to show on my overview. Although, like I said, you could definitely argue that it should be there. Now let's resize velocity here, again, just so we can just see the full word. And that could go a little bit smaller, but I'm like fussy about seeing the full word for some reason. And I will bring type out just a little bit bigger, right to about there, say. Distance, I'm going to readjust that, again, just so I can see the word there. And alliance, I'll adjust that so I can just see the word. And corporation, I'm just going to have that say corporate. There we go. And then I will resize this back down to our default size here. Although it looks like I'm going to have to make this a little bit bigger. So this was something I did think I would probably have to do, because it's kind of a bit hard. I've got this pinned. Unpin. That's not pinned. Okay, good. So we'll just move these out for unpin. Okay, I guess these are like both pinned or something. Unpin. There we go. So I guess we'll just move this out. Yeah, just like that, so we can see corporation. But yeah, you could consider taking it out so you could see transverse velocity. So if we took that like took that down to there, and then like this, that doesn't take up too much more space. So that's something you could consider doing. And that is definitely something I'm considering even right now. But for the moment, I'm just going to leave this as I currently have it. So let's put this back in here, this back in. We'll have to resize these a little bit, just like so, and like so. Bring this down, because I like having that little gap there. And chuck this guy back over there, pretty much. That'll do. And that is our columns sorted out there. Let's go on to the ships tab here. Now there's not a lot that I'm going to go through in here. There is this option which you can hide the corp ticker on. So this is basically like if I mouse over this pilot. Let's find another pilot here. Yeah, so like Samantha, Kindra here, you can see they're in an alliance, which is BBC, and they're docking now, so that's going to disappear. And their corporation is, well, their corporation ticker is in law. But if we had this ticked, it would just show their alliance. However, for me, I do like to know corporations as well as alliances, because, there's a bit of a difference between, say, a Brave Newbies industrial pilot and a Brave Newbies wormholer or, low-sec pirate or something like that. So I do want to know the corporations specifically. We also have other options here which we can tick. Like if we tick this and then we mouse over someone, you'll be able to see the ship name that they've chosen. So like Espiritu Santus's Loki, if you wanted to see their actual ship name when you mouse over them. But we don't really want to see that. And this last option here is really weird. It's like additional text, which you can actually like type something in here. So like something, and then that actually like shows up for some reason. Why is it not showing up? It was doing it before. Something. Tick that. Yeah, so now it's saying something on it. So I really don't know what the purpose of this is, but that's what it does. So yeah, we're going to leave that unchecked. Then in our miscellaneous options here, we have the option to reset all of our overview settings. So if you're going to start a new overview, or if you've previously loaded someone else's overview settings, it is a good idea to go ahead and reset all of your overview settings before you go loading up a new overview profile. We also have some other options here, like show targeting crosshair. So this is if I try and lock something, you can see this crosshair that shows up briefly. It would show up for the full time if I was in range to actually lock it. But this big crosshair that's showing up, if we untick that, that will no longer show when we try and lock something. So that's up to you whether you want to show that or not. Display damage indications. I believe this is for your modules, potentially. So I definitely want that to show. And then we have options here for display active module links, which I'm not quite sure what that is, but I'm going to leave that checked. Display in range brackets. So I guess that's something to do with the brackets in space. If something is on grid with you, whether it will show the bracket for that or not. We then have two options here to import overview settings or export overview settings. So if we go to export, we can save our settings locally to our computer. So we could just call it like my overview and export that, and it's now been saved in my documents, Eve overview, my overview. And then I could go ahead and import that on another character. You can see I've got a bunch of other overviews already created there. But yeah, if I wanted to share that with another character, that would be one way to do it. Or I could also grab this little share button, go ahead and drag that into a chat window or a message or something, and go and share that with Jita Local. And then lastly here, we have the history, which just shows the history of the overview tabs which we have loaded. But yeah, that is all of the options that we have here for displaying different appearances and our columns. We are going to now move on to creating each of our overview tabs here. Now, here we are in beautiful Auberel, where we are going to start customizing our primary tab here, and the beautiful view here. Look at this. This is really why we need to fight the good fight against spreadsheets in space. So, you know, that's probably one of the reasons that I don't have transversal velocity on my overview as yet. But let's open up the settings here again, and there is actually something that I failed to mention. We do want to check this little box here. So move entries with broadcasts to top. This is again a fleet thing. So what will happen is if an FC broadcasts a target, it will immediately be moved to the top of our overview list, regardless of how we have things sorted. So if something's broadcasted, it goes straight to the top, and that way it's quite easy for us to see what the primary target is in a fleet. So that's definitely going to be pretty useful for us to do. But as I said, we're going to start customizing our primary tab here. So let's actually get on that, and we will call this tab 1-primary. So let's go and start customizing this a little bit here. Now, I'm not going to go into absolutely everything in here because there's quite a lot, and you know, I don't want this to be a 4-hour YouTube video. But I will go over some of the highlights here. So asteroids, we're going to leave all of those unchecked. But let's open up Celestial here. I'm going to add Sun to the overview because I like to have the Sun on all of my overviews pretty well, except I think maybe not on looting. But yeah, pretty well on all of them because the Sun is a nice warp away point. If I need to get away quickly, I can warp to the Sun, which is, you know, maybe not 100% the best thing because people expect you to kind of warp there, but at the same time, you know, a Sun is going to be in every system and there's only going to be one of them. So having a Sun on all of your overviews gives you a point to warp away to where, to be honest, like 90% of the time, well, depending on what ship you're flying, but often warping away to the Sun is going to be safe, or at least safer than staying on grid if you need to get away. So we have the Sun checked there. I'm also going to check biomass here. This is just going to show corpses because I think it's fun to have corpses on my overview. I will keep beacon checked. Now this is something I would recommend that you have on your primary overview. Beacons CCP will use quite a lot during different events that they will run, and beacons will show up if you have them checked in your primary overview, and CCP, as I said, uses them for like event sites. So like recently there was a Garistas event, I want to say, where you could go to sites and possibly get geckos, which if you don't know is like a rare and quite valuable drone, although maybe not so rare at the moment, seeing as there was just a drop on them in the recent event. But definitely having beacons checked is something that you're going to want to do. I'm going to take the cargo containers off here because that's going to go on my looting tab. Warp gates we're going to keep there. Force fields, I am going to check this. Now, this is something I'm going to mainly... The main reason I have it checked here is that I'm going to use this overview tab as part of my directional scan. So you can see here, if I open up this drop down, I have one primary on my D-scan here, and in fact let's just go and save that. Yes, overwrite. And if we throw a scan out here, let's see if we can see any... We can. So we can see there's some control towers here, and we can also see there's one force field. Now what this means is that one of these control towers here is actually active. So this can be a good way, particularly if you're in a wormhole, to find out if there is inhabitants in that hole and people like actively living in there in a POS. Although, you know, that's maybe going to change with Citadels releasing very, very shortly, and in fact probably released by the time you watch this video. But even so, that's something I'm going to have on my overview. Take the freight containers off. Covert beacon, I guess I'll leave that on there. Wormhole, yeah, we'll leave the rest of that on there. So let's go and close Celestial here. Charge, I'm going to just go ahead and select all on that. So charge is basically bombs, probes, yada yada. We want those to show. Deployable, yeah, we'll... Actually, I'm going to take off this stuff, this stuff. I'm going to take off pretty much everything except warp disruption and mobile siphon. Then I'm going to... Now in entity here, this I'm not going to totally bore you with, but basically what I'll do is off camera, I'm going to go through all of these and just check anything that is an actual ship. So not the large collidable ship, because that's like not an active ship. But yeah, I will go through this and actually check all of the ships, which it looks like they're probably all checked already. But I will go through and double check that and make sure that all the ships are checked in here, because that is something that I want to show on my primary overview. Now, fighter drones, I'm going to go ahead and select all of these. These are basically just drones that are used by a capital ship. NPCs, yeah, we will leave that as is, that's fine. Orbitals, we will leave that unchecked. PI, I don't really need any of that stuff. We will have all of the ships checked here, and this is something you want to come back to sort of semi-regularly and just check that you have all of the ships displayed, because when CCP creates a new ship and adds it into the game, you then have to go to your overview and add that in, otherwise it will not display for you. So if someone's sitting in one of the new ships, like say one of the new command destroyers, and you haven't added that to your overview, then that's not going to show up for you. Sov structures, we will leave all of those checked. Star bases, now this is something that I have changed a little bit on mine, like I think I show ship maintenance arrays, and that's something that you could get into depending on what you're doing in game, but there was a point where I was living in a POS, so I needed some of that to display, so you could go through and do that. I am going to display stations here, and in structure here, I'm going to go through and check all of the citadels, because I want the new citadels to show up on my overview when they release in a few days' time, or probably by the time you watch this video. So that is our primary overview tab done there. Let's go ahead and save that, and then move on to our PvP tab. So let's go ahead now and create our PvP tab. So we'll go and select that tab here, and it looks like the preset is on mining now, is it? Yep, it is on mining. So we'll go and save a PvP preset here. And to create a PvP preset, what we're going to do is we're going to go and deselect all in here. So everything is now deselected. This is a completely clean tab, and we're just going to go and add just the things that we're going to want for PvP in here. So first off, obviously that's going to be ships. So we'll right click on this and select all. And that will have all the ships. Just double check. That's all the ships in there. And then we'll go and select all on charge as well. Now, let's also open up charge. There are a couple of things which we may want to take out of here, such as interdiction probes. Occasionally, there can be quite a few of these dropped on field in a PvP situation that you might lock accidentally. So we'll take those out. We'll take survey probes out because they're just irrelevant. We'll keep all the bombs in, the structure missiles, and scanner probes. Now, this is something that you could consider taking out, but you know, it's pretty rare that someone's actually going to drop scan probes in the middle of a fight. So it's something I'm going to leave on my tab because I do use the PvP tab to descan quite a bit, and it is nice to have the scanner probes on that. So I'm going to leave that on there, and then just go into Celestial and check the sun as per usual. So I have a sun to warp away to, and I will scroll down right to the bottom as well and chuck wormholes on there. Now, this is not something you particularly have to do, but it's something that I like to do. I spend a lot of time in wormholes, and you know, there's only ever going to be one wormhole on grid, so I don't find that it's that big of an issue to have one extra icon in my PvP tab. You know, there is a chance you can accidentally lock the hole. Some people prefer not to have the holes on there for that reason, but you know, I like to be able to jump out quickly from the hole if need be, so I have that on there. Let's now go into the states tab here, and we do want to go and change a few things in here. So what we want to do is set a few of these standings here to actually filter out so that they will not show on our PvP tab. So first off, we're going to have excellent standing as filtered out, and good standing as filtered out as well. So what this means is basically if you blue somebody, they're not going to show up in your PvP tab. And what this does is it makes your standings actually mean something. So when I first started playing the game, you know, I would literally blue pretty well anyone who waved to me in local, or you know, I just had a little bit of a chat with or something, because you know, I was just a friendly new bro out there trying to make friends and adding contacts and stuff, you know. But that's not something you necessarily want to do, especially once you have your overview set up like this. So let's say that I do have a chat with this Zardoom guy, and I decide that, you know, he's a cool bloke, I want to keep in contact with him. I can go and add him as a contact, but just go ahead and add him as neutral, and then go into the notes here, and you know, just say was nice guy, something like that, and you know, you'll be able to remember him that way. But you know, if he shows up in an enemy fleet, he's not going to be filtered out of my overview. So, you know, you only really want to add people as excellent or good standing if you literally do not want to shoot at them at any point. And, you know, a lot of my really good Eve friends I have set to neutral standing, you know, just for the fact that they're in a different corp, and, you know, at some stage we may end up shooting at each other, you know, all in good fun. It's just for the fact that, you know, we're not in the same corp. I'll set them as neutral standing. Now, let's go down to pilot is at war with your corporation or alliance. We want to set this to always show. So go ahead and select that. Now, what that's going to do is, if, let's say I have someone blued in Marmite or something, or one of the war deck corps, you know, if I have this selected to always show, then no matter what my standing is towards them, if they are at war with me, they will show up in my overview, which is something that I definitely want to have happen. We will then go further down to pilot is in your alliance, we're going to select this to filter out. The same with corporation, and also within your fleet. So this way, we're not going to mistakenly shoot at Corp or Alliance members, and also anyone who's in our fleet is not going to appear in our PvP tab. So that makes it a hell of a lot easier for, if someone shows up on grid, like this worm here, for example, and we're in a fleet, we won't be distracted by all of our fleet members, and we can easily lock the targets without having to worry about, clicking on any fleet members who might be in our overview. Alright, so let's go ahead and save this, and that is our PvP tab done. And next up, we will create our PvP tab with the drones. Now that we've created our PvP tab, creating one with the drones is pretty simple. So we will go down, and we'll go into here. We will go PvP with drones. We will select the PvP tab that we have already saved here. Then we'll go back to our tab presets. The states we will leave all the same. Go back to the types here, and we're just going to go and select all of the drones. So select drones, and then down to the fighter drones, I will also select the fighter drones. And that is a PvP tab with drones. So let's go and save that as 2A PvP plus drones. Okay, and that is our PvP with drones tab saved. Alright, let's move on to our penultimate tab here, our looting tab. So again, we're going to work from our PvP preset. Go into the tab presets here, and in Celestial here, I want to add the Stargates to my looting preset, so I can warp away quickly from a Stargate if I'm looting something and I need to GTFO. We will then go and add, we want to add a bunch of containers to this. Now the easiest way to do this is to filter by container. So we want to add cargo containers, secure containers. Yeah, I'm going to add all of these containers here. And these are mission containers we're going to add. So they'll appear in missions, and I think spawn container might be in some DED sites or something. Anyway, we want all of the containers on our overview. We also want biomass to be on the overview here. Biomass, that's in Celestial. And Rex, we do want Rex to be on there as well. There's the Rex on there, and I think that's pretty well everything that I want on my looting overview. Let's go and save this as 3-looting, and we will go into the states for looting here now. What I want to do here is go and select everything as show by default, except for, when we get to it, we'll leave the war targets as always showing, and fleet members we are still going to filter out, because it can be a bit annoying having fleet members showing up on our overview when we're trying to loot things, especially if you're in quite a large fleet. So let's go ahead and save that and overwrite, and that is our looting tab done. So finally we will move on to our all tab, and this is obviously going to be very easy to create for us here. We can actually just go and select, I think there's already a preset for all, so we can just go and select that, and that is literally all right there. And we can go into states and just double check this. We'll minimize everything here. Okay, so it looks like there's some problems with the all, because it's not showing all on the entity there. and it's not showing all for PI. So this is something that, you know, occasionally might not get updated, like CCP might kind of miss it. So we're going to just go ahead, actually we're just going to go ahead and select all, literally select all there, and that will make sure that we have everything selected here. And then we will go and save this ourselves as 4-all. And that is our overview completely set up here. We have our all tab, we have looting, our PvP tabs, which are nice and clean, they're just going to show the ships, and then our primary tab, which we're going to use pretty much most of the time. We're just noodling about in space. Once again, the information found in this guide can be found in-game at the mailing list New Bro Help. To join a mailing list, open up your EVE Mail, click on the Add Mailing List button in the bottom left corner of the window, then just type the name of the list, which in this case is New Bro Help, and hit join. You will then be added to the list and will receive a welcome mail if the mailing list has one saved. In the next part of this guide series, I'm going to be covering basic internet spaceship pilotry. I do hope you will be able to join me for that video, but until then, fly dangerous.